All right, and still see more positives coming from the central bank. At this time, we see a report yesterday by CBN showed that an announcement, actually, that the complete clearance of valid foreign exchange backlog has been completed at this time. And we did see the Naira react to that. Let's get the expected impact now. Joining us is Gospel Obele, Chief Economist at Streetnomics, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ladi. Good day.
Fantastic. So definitely FX backlogs. We've been talking about this since, say, 2022, 2021 into 2023. That's dominated, headlines. Nigeria had to clear all of those backlogs. And now we did get the report from the CBN saying that they have cleared all outstanding FX backlogs at this time. But for verified people that needed to be paid, at this time. So we're seeing the Naira reacting. It did touch about 1,400. We got that report from the black market and also the official window. We're seeing some strengthening there. So are we out of the woods yet with what you're seeing so far?
I would say that we are beginning to fairly, get a hang over the narratives in terms of clearing backlogs, but that's a major part of the whole challenge you face with, initiating new levels of artificial scarcity, bringing about speculations in the market and all that. So, yeah, clearing of backlogs is a sort of very good way to go, which is a necessary condition to happen. But I would not still see that as we are, nearing the wood yet in terms of seeing a bright tunnel at the end of this challenge. There's still a sufficient condition that needs to be met, which to a very large extent has to deal with working closely with the fiscal authorities to ensure that required control measures or structural reforms are being led, and preferably also being supported by the Apex institution to ensure that we're relaxing the demand side for these items that border heavily on FX needs or FX demand, as the case may be. So yes, in as much as we've cleared the backlogs, it still doesn't speak to the fact that we've also been able to harness supply critically to meet local demand, or it still hasn't pointed out the need to relax local demand for foreign exchange. Not necessarily by forcing that relaxation of local demand, but by ensuring that we're creating incentives to attract people away from having to demand FX, as the case may be.
And what do you think could be the next development or next announcement, from the CBN that could actually take the Naira sub 1,000, to the dollar?
Well, the next announcement may likely still be areas around managing the demand cycle and probably facilitating win-win relationships with the build exchange operators and critical stakeholders who supply dollars to the Nigerian market to ensure that there is a reasonable, rate at which the market is sort of operating, and that would mean that the central bank will sort of be interfering with market forces to a large extent, which in my own opinion will be very sustainable, because again, it doesn't still fix the fact that there's a supply issue and there's also a demand issue. I know that fixing supply will be largely would largely hinge around how do you work with critical stakeholders like access to market for MSMEs who are ready to export, and how you partner with fiscal authorities to ensure that you're raking in more supply, and how you're attracting people away from demand. Unfortunately, both the supply side and demand side dynamics are a very, very tough work to do, or it would be very difficult for the Apex institution to pull on themselves. And even if they do in partnership with the fiscal authority, it's sort of like a mid to long-term hard work that needs to be done that it doesn't seem as though any party is really ready to face that heat right now, because to bother a lot on many very touchy topics that we haven't been able to face, quite honestly. So I think they will probably want to look for low-hanging fruit that they could use to sort of encourage supply and relax local demand. And I also have the scare that they may not go about the communications or dealing with those things rightly. Like I mentioned earlier on in previous outings, that I do not think that the future of the foreign exchange in Nigeria would be without the parallel market. There has to be an interesting and forward-thinking way to include the workings of the parallel market in the future of the exchange. And that's the only foreseeable way you can really get out of this mess in a very sustainable way, particularly.
Right, and definitely the MPC's meeting next week. That's Monday. Then we'll get a decision on Tuesday. What are you expecting?
Well, quite honestly, what I'm expecting may not necessarily be very, very, very important in this context. But top of mind in terms of answering your question will be preferably a rate hold. A rate hold because lots and lots of policies between January and now has been rolled out in terms of FX, customs, inflation, and all of that, both on the fiscal and the monetary side. We want to see how those things will align and help to correct market imbalances. All right, so we need to pace things out. I'm also taking into consideration that the last time, the previous decision was an interest rate hike of 400 basis points, which technically means from 18 to 22.75%, and that's really a huge hike that we've not seen in recent times. So you don't want to have another hike at the back of that, leap increase, as the case may be. You want to be able to watch how the market will respond and how the market will also settle into the more recent monetary policies around the FX, as the case may be. So I would recommend a hold, and but then if possibly, sort of reducing the rates, which I don't see happening anytime soon, because the central bank also has to be systematically correct within the wider scheme of things in terms of what's happening in other regional markets and the Western world.
All right, well, definitely you're expecting a hold, and I've heard some other experts talk about maybe another 200 basis points hike, but we'll see what happens next week. It's really, really close at this point. Thank you so much for coming on Guns Bele, Chief Economist, Streetnomics. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
All right, after the break, we get a check on the markets. That's to the moment. We see what's happening in the global markets and the local bourse right here in Nigeria. Do stay with us.